Welcome to Cinema Bites, your go-to for movie recaps in a flash. Big twists, epic moments, all in just minutes. The movie Scurry begins with people running from an attack, while the TV displays an evacuation alert. In the background, we see chaos taking over the city. Amid the rubble, a gigantic crater draws attention. Inside it is Mark, a man who is trying to escape the turmoil and ended up trapped down there. A rock is pressing on his leg, and he cries out for help, but no one responds, as the city has been practically evacuated. Soon he spots an iron bar, manages to grab it, and uses it to drag the phone that fell beside him. The man tries to call someone, but his calls are being forwarded to voicemail, and then he discovers that all service lines are unavailable. This leaves Mark hopeless, but at that moment, he feels strong tremors and again calls for help, but no one comes to his rescue. Mark turns on his phone's flashlight to try to map the place where he is. He ends up finding a tunnel underground, but hears a fierce growl and decides it's better to turn off the phone's light. Mark decides to inform his wife about his situation. He tells her that he was on his way to school to pick up his daughters when those tremors started, and when he realized it, he was inside that hole. And the situation he finds himself in is very complicated. At that moment, Mark feels a glimmer of hope, as there is the sound of a helicopter. However, his hopes are dashed when the aircraft crashes, causing an explosion that makes the crater begin to collapse. Quickly, the man uses the iron bar he had found to free himself from the rock and escape before being crushed by the rubble. He runs to hide in the tunnel, but amid the chaos, a piece of glass pierces him. Mark takes a handkerchief from his pocket and puts it in his mouth and, with great pain, manages to remove the glass that was stuck in his skin. Upon checking the wound, he realizes it is more serious than he thought and for a few seconds considers giving up. But when he looks at the photo of his daughters on his phone, he finds the strength to continue. He takes a lighter from his pocket and uses it to illuminate the unknown place. He decides to explore the area to try to find an exit and uses the iron bar to support himself due to the injury. Along the way, he notices bloodstains on the walls and realizes he might not be alone. Further ahead, he finds a backpack and decides to check it. Inside, he sees a photo of a little girl, possibly related to the blood he found. Among the items, he discovers a camera with night vision and uses it to examine the rest of the tunnel. When he sees a person at the end of the path, he approaches and finds an injured and unconscious woman. When he touches her, she wakes up scared, shocked by the environment, and by being awakened by a stranger. Mark asks if the backpack is hers. She grabs her belongings and looks for her water bottle, but realizes he had already drunk from it. Mark notices the woman is injured in the leg and offers to help her, but there's no time, as strong tremors return to shake the place and they need to protect themselves before collapses or new dangers hit them. When Mark opens his eyes, he realizes the woman ran off and decides to go after her, shouting. He finds her again, but she has a panicked expression and asks him to be quiet, or else it will find them. He asks who she's talking about, but she keeps insisting he stay quiet. Mark, in turn, warns that her leg is very injured and needs treatment. He asks her to trust him and let him tie his belt to stop the bleeding. She agrees and asks if he's a doctor. Mark reveals that his wife is, and he learned a few things from her. He finishes helping her and mentions he has a phone, but the battery will soon die and asks if she has one. The woman replies yes, which makes Mark happy, but she explains she had to leave it in the car due to the rush. He gets angry with the tremors, but she laughs and asks if he really believes this was an earthquake. Mark firmly believes so, as that's what has been happening in recent weeks. She asks if he didn't see that thing. The woman doesn't have time for explanations, as everything starts shaking again and she goes into shock. Mark thinks someone is coming to rescue them and is glad, but the woman screams that no one will help them because everyone is dead. She is terrified and tells him to be quiet. He tries to understand her situation and says they have to keep going and asks if she can walk. She manages to move and soon the two begin to walk through the tunnel. Mark wants to go ahead to explore, but the woman doesn't trust him and says she knows what he's trying to do. Mark asks about it. She reveals that he would go ahead and not come back to help her, leaving her there to die. The man says he would never do that, and she explains she has no reason to trust him. Mark reveals he saw her daughter's photo in the wallet, the photo of his own children. The man explains he only wants to get back to his children and asks if she doesn't want the same. He again asks to go ahead. She turns and asks why he's calling her Sarah. He asks if that's not her name, as that's what he found on the document. She admits she ended up stealing it, and Mark doesn't judge her, saying they need to go ahead to find the exit. She disagrees again, but he reveals it wasn't a question and tries to force his way ahead. The woman doesn't like that and quickly strikes him, making him retreat. He wonders what she is doing, and then she pulls out a gun. Mark says she won't use it, as it will make a huge and the creature that's scaring her will hear. She tells him to shut up and says it's better to end both their lives, asking if he still wants to see his children. Mark replies yes, and she asks him to hand over his lighter. The woman tells him to keep following her, but to keep some distance and not try anything. They move forward, but a fierce growl comes from behind, making them turn immediately. The woman, overcome by fear, puts out the lighter. Mark asks her to stop that and decides to turn on his phone's light while the woman is still in shock. She says they've been found and he asks, "What was that?" In a more serious tone, she demands that he shut his mouth. The creature keeps approaching and Mark wants to shine a light to see what it is, but she stops him and warns it's dangerous. He asks her to stay calm and requests the night vision camera. He quickly uses it and looks for something, but can't find anything. Mark says it's all fine, but when he turns around, the woman is no longer there, and the growl echoes again. He turns to check and, unable to see anything, keeps going, though the noises keep getting louder. He finds the woman again, who is in complete panic, and asks if the man saw anything. He replies, "There's nothing there," and reveals he's more worried about the structure of the place. Fearing for her life, the woman rushes and says she needs to get out of there urgently. Mark asks if someone is waiting for her, and she reveals that her brother Joe might be looking for her. They stop to rest and talk a bit, but while they do, the monster reappears. With no options, the pair have to flee again while being chased by something unknown. As they run, they end up stumbling and falling. She quickly lights the lighter but can't see because of the darkness. Mark asks for the camera to identify the creature, and this time he manages to see. The creature starts approaching again, and they quickly sneak through the tunnel, stopping when they think the creature got stuck. Then the woman realizes she's without her medication. Mark tells her they were left behind and he can't go back. He tries to calm her, saying they'll manage to get out, and she pretends to agree but soon reveals her true intention, pulling out a gun and forcing him to go back to get the medicine. With little choice, Mark returns and finds the medication, coming back quickly. When he returns with the medicine, he's tired of being threatened all the time with that gun. He throws the medicine at her chest, sits beside her, and asks, "What are those things?" The woman can't give much information but says they've been wandering there for a long time. With a trembling voice, she reveals those creatures were responsible for her sister's death. She says she caught her sister skipping class and decided to take her home, but on the way they started arguing about it. Suddenly, one of the creatures appeared and hit the car. She passed out, and when she woke up, saw her sister being dragged out of the vehicle, unable to do anything but run. Mark deeply regrets her loss and apologizes for his earlier behavior. The woman says there's no time for mourning and orders him to keep following her in silence. On the way, Mark breaks the silence and asks how she ended up there. She reveals that while running from the creatures, the ground gave way and she ended up falling into that place. She explains those things are huge and doesn't understand how they managed to follow her there, nor how he managed to enter without even knowing they existed. Mark replies that he thought it was all just earthquakes and that he was crossing the street when he heard a deafening noise. The only thing he remembers after that is waking up in that hole. At the end of the tunnel, they find a narrower passage. Mark thinks it's dangerous to go in, but the woman sarcastically says it'll be fun. Inside the passage, a problem arises. The lighter goes out and they're left in the dark. She uses the night vision camera and asks for his phone to help with the light, but Mark refuses, saying the battery is running out and he doesn't want to risk their only chance of escape. She argues that there are people waiting up there, or maybe they're already dead. Mark asks why she says that, since they've managed to survive so far and maybe their families can too. Annoyed, she replies that it'll be great for him to reunite with his family and wife. Mark reveals he's in the process of divorce, leaving her speechless. Shortly after, she sees a strong light at the end of the tunnel and gets excited thinking they've reached the end. They crawl, but discover it was just a flashlight. She starts hyperventilating, but Mark calms her, saying it's good because now they have more light. He asks her to keep going, and when she picks up the flashlight and lights the way, they discover a body covered with stones. They try to check if the man is alive but find no pulse and confirm he's dead. The woman rummages through the belongings and finds a knife she wants to keep, but Mark insists it should be his, since she already has a gun. She agrees and, searching more, finds a flask with alcohol and gets excited. She takes a sip and offers it to Mark, who's been sober for 6 months, but recognizes it will be useful. He uses the alcohol to treat the wound and asks that she keeps moving forward. As they pass by the body, the man grabs Mark's leg, screaming for help. The woman asks him to be quiet, but it's already too late, as the creature hears the noise and appears quickly. The pair is forced to run, leaving the man behind. In the process, the camera falls, and it's possible to see the monster killing him. They go back to get the camera and Mark realizes the creature is returning. They decide to keep moving, but she can't see, and even though she's scared, she uses the flashlight. She walks a little, but starts to limp, and Mark asks her to rest, but she refuses, frightened by the creature behind them. He insists, reminding her that she's been pushing herself too hard and that he'll help when they get out. The argument starts again, as he insists on going ahead, but she refuses. She says the only thing separating her from the creature is him, and Mark, feeling used, asks if he's just bait. She says he asked for this, but Mark reveals he won't die there and points the knife at her. As he attacks her, she begs for her life and asks him to reconsider, but when he's about to kill her, A noise interrupts. When they check, they realize it was just a rat. They feel momentary relief, but the creature reappears and kills the rat. They are terrified and quickly start running as the creature roars fiercely. During the run, Mark is caught and begs her to shoot, but she is in shock and can't react. She picks up the dropped camera and doesn't know what to do, but doesn't want to go back, as she knows he must be dead. As she moves forward, feels something approaching and, very scared, decides to turn around. To her surprise, it's Mark, who managed to survive. She is happy and can't believe how he did it. He replies that he just used the knife to kill the creature. She apologizes for not having done anything, but Mark says he doesn't want to talk about it. They walk a bit more and take a break. She takes the opportunity to collect some water from the sewer and again praises Mark for having managed to kill the creature with just a knife, calling him brave. Mark comments that his children don't think so, and she asks why. He reveals that there was a fire in which his wife and daughter managed to escape and that it was up to him to save his son Michael. Mark says he managed to see his son's room but couldn't reach it because of the flames, until the firefighters arrived and rescued him, taking him to the hospital. After that, he never had the courage to return home. He explains that this is why he never drank again and blames himself for not having helped his son at the time. She considers all of this nonsense, but he insists that staying away was the safest way to protect them. This irritates her even more, and she says his kids need him and that he only hurts them by staying away. She tells him to stop making up lame excuses and go back to his family because they need him. She also tells a sad story and Mark holds her hand to support her. She feels a closeness from him, but quickly changes the focus of the conversation. She decides to get more water from that pipe, but notices blood leaking into the water and starts to feel sick about it. Again, the woman is in shock, and Mark says she will survive this. She keeps walking forward and discovers that the tunnel is a dead end and becomes even more terrified. She asks what they will do, and Mark suggests they go back. She says they can't do that. In a desperate act, she says she won't go back and starts kicking those rocks. And Mark, out of options, also starts kicking. They manage to open a path and find an underground sewer. They find another dead body there. They find an exit above, but there's an iron grate and they try to jump to reach it. Since both are injured, they can't jump high. She asks him to help her up, but finds the grate is stuck. As they look for something to open it, they hear screams and gunshots outside and take the opportunity to shout for help. Soon a soldier appears and asks how many people they are, and they reply that it's just the two of them. She asks her colleague to get the winch and the first aid kit. He goes to get them while his colleague stays to calm them down. They celebrate knowing they will be rescued, but soon a new confrontation begins. The soldier shoots at the creatures but is soon killed and the pair is bathed in blood. The creature tries to attack them and the woman is completely in shock while Mark asks her to come back to reality, as they need to return to the hole. She says she won't go into that hole and Mark realizes the creatures are almost reaching them. So that they don't go back into the hole, Mark breaks open the entrance to a sewer and the two quickly enter to escape. They find a place completely submerged and Mark says he will dive to try to find an exit. He does this a few times but can't see underwater and on a new attempt manages to find a way out. He asks her to hurry, but before going she saves the camera's memory card, where the photo of her deceased sister is. She enters the water and he explains that when she gets to the other side, she should use the flashlight so he can guide himself. Before they do this, he asks what her name is, and the woman reveals her name is Kate. She quickly dives and enters the hole while Mark waits for her to cross, but soon hears the creatures approaching. She crosses and lights the way, and he dives right after. He continues, but ends up hitting a wall and loses his way. When he is about to pass out, Kate appears to guide him and manages to lead him to the other side. He thanks her and asks what lies ahead, and she replies that there are more tunnels. They see roots and a source of light coming from deep within, and Mark says that this is a good sign. They crawl towards it and discover that there is an exit, and they celebrate. Kate says that finally he will return to his family, and he replies that now it's just the two of them. Then they start crawling toward it, but new tremors begin, and a creature appears in front of them. It approaches but enters a hole. Kate is terrified and Mark insists she go on, but she hears screams coming from the hole and is in shock. With few options, Kate moves forward and manages to get to the other side. While Mark tries to do the same, he manages to cross and finds Kate unconscious, and soon discovers that she died from her injury. Kate is blocking the passage and Mark doesn't know what to do, as the tunnel is collapsing. We see that the hole below is infested with those creatures. He takes Kate's belongings and, with alcohol and a lighter in hand, decides to cremate his companion's body. But we discover that it was all a product of his imagination, and Mark falls to the ground not knowing what to do. He opens his phone and watches a video where he's playing with his children and cries as he remembers those moments. He tries to talk to Kate and says how beautiful life is and regrets wasting his time away from his family, saying how much he misses them. He plans to take his own life, but when he tries, he finds out that the gun had no bullets. He gets angry at Kate, But a glimmer of hope appears. His phone starts receiving messages and he discovers they're from his wife. She reveals she received his message and says she is very afraid. She asks him to stop blaming himself for everything and says how much she loves him and that his family needs him right now. Mark, now with renewed hope, decides to try escaping again. He sets his phone alarm to attract the creatures and puts it on Kate's leg. Soon the creature appears and drags Kate's body into the hole. Mark starts to approach and tries to get to the other side, but a tremor almost makes him fall into the creature's hole. He manages to crawl to the other side, but is grabbed by a creature and begins to be pulled by it. He manages to grab the alcohol and lighter and quickly uses them on the creature to kill it. Mark finally manages to escape, but we discover that the world outside is much worse, and thus the movie ends. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to get more new videos. See you next time.